Hi, YouTube. Welcome. I'm Marissa.
I'm Javier.
And together we are
Carissa.
Thanks for joining us on our Moroccan adventure. We're excited to share the next little leg of our trip and just the adventures we embarked upon and other crazy things that we did.
Yep, so let's get started, jump right back in. So after the Sahara, we spent the next 3 days in Fez.
Mm-hmm.
Driving from Fez, we drove through a gorge. The gorge was gorgeous.
Wow.
We also,
You skipped the best part.
I did skip the best part.
We stopped at I'm going to call it a roadside attraction. Not really billed as that, but I think it was. It was also not accessible. So it was something that I did solo. The atlases are known to have monkeys.
Yes.
So
the mid-atlas.
The mid-atlas.
So
You're
we've
right.
already driven
We've
through.
driven down from the high atlas. We're now in the mid-atlas. And they have monkeys, which we learned that these monkeys are notorious in town for, like, I'm going to say breaking in, but like breaking in is the wrong word. Entering unlawfully into businesses in little groups, in little troops of monkeys, and stealing things and looting the businesses.
Yep.
So they, have signage and things that say, please, make sure no monkeys enter, keep the doors closed, that kind of thing. So I just thought it was really funny because, like, these are little looting monkeys. And as you can tell, they're pretty darn cute.
Yeah. I didn't get to experience them. I'm glad you did.
That was in the Cedar Forest. Then we did go to the gorge after that, right?
Yeah. Can I make my gorge joke again?
Sure.
It was gorgeous.
So in the gorge, we got dropped off a ways from the entry point.
We did. So it's very touristy.
I mean, we're talking big tour buses.
Yes. I was a little hesitant that we wouldn't be able to get out of the van or, see anything. But the road there is actually pretty wide, and they do a good job of, like, directing traffic to let people get out and take pictures, and then have another lane for people.
Mm-hmm.
I also, again, a driver, gotta give him credit. This is probably one of those areas where if you're from Morocco, you're like, why are people stopping to look at this roadside attraction? But as someone not from there, it was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say if you're in Morocco, check it out.
So after the gorge, we kept driving to our hotel in Fez.
Yep. And again, we stayed in the Medina. So we were inside the walled city in a riad.
So this one was one of the more traditional riads that we stayed at. I felt like we were kings and queens in here. It had a giant doorway. It was beautiful, opened right up into the patio area.
Similar to the other riad we stayed in. Absolutely gorgeous.
This Medina in Fez, I have to say, it was a little more hilly than other cities,
Much more
Medinas.
Much.
Honestly, there was very few roads that were, like, truly step-free.
Because it was hilly, there were lots of steps. Because it was a labyrinth, that made it even more challenging because you might turn down an alleyway and find steps.
I mean, I think our tour guide was even like, I've been tour guiding and grew up here, and I'm still figuring out what alleys have steps.
Yep. And you would take us certain routes, get to a step and be like, oh, I forgot about this. We have to find a different way. And then we have to backtrack. Another aspect of Fez that I didn't really enjoy, because it's the artisan capital of Morocco, there are a lot of ware pushers that wanted to just sell you stuff and were very, very pushy about it. One of the places we went to was a tile making
shop.
Morocco's just filled with tile and very beautiful tile work, but they wanted to sell you stuff, and it was not cheap, and they did not wait no for an answer.
So after leaving Fez,
Well, not.
oh no, this was a day trip in Fez,
It
right?
was an excursion from Fez. It was probably a 2 or 3 hour drive.
To Volbi- Volbi-
Volubilis?
Volubilis.
Volubilis?
It's a Roman ruin city.
Yes. It is at the furthest west the Roman Empire had ever reached. Is a city, or ruins of a city in Morocco. I would say this was not accessible in the least. And I don't want to criticize anyone, but how this ended up on a accessible tour itinerary is kind of beyond me.
I mean, it for sure was 100% not wheelchair accessible.
No.
Maybe a manual wheelchair with like the extra features where like the casters don't get stuck,
I would say no.
but
I mean, it's on what I would describe as what you envision as like a Tuscan mountainside, hillside. It's a dirt path with
switchbacks up to like
gravel. Once you get to if you can even make it to the Roman ruins, which I could not. The ruins themselves are Roman ruins. So, I mean, they're not even close to accessible. So yeah, this was
a bust.
It was a bust. It was kind of a waste of our day.
I agree. I think it would have been better like giving us free time in the Medina or I don't think that it was properly expressed.
Agreed.
On this one.
I would say this was the only example on this trip where I can say it was not accessible. Do not do it. Abort. After the Volubilis we went back to Fez, kind of just spent the rest of the day in Fez, made a night of it. And the next day, which was sadly our last day, from Fez we did a driving tour through Rabat. Obviously, driving tour is accessible. We got to see the King's Palace.
Yeah.
Which was very palatial.
Which we happened to be on the premises during one of their call to prayers.
Which was very surreal.
It was, yeah.
We also visited the tomb of the king. I don't remember which king.
It had his father and his grandfather.
Are there,
yeah.
And he has a space available. I mean, you laughed. Is it meant for 3?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah. So, it's waiting for him.
It just sounds really bad. The driving tour of Rabat, it was nice. I don't think it was anything that like we were like, ooh, let's come here and visit this city specifically.
Agreed.
But the King's Palace area felt kind of cool because, I mean, we were going on to, like, royal grounds.
Yeah.
So, like, we had to get our passports checked, like, you know, go through all these checkpoints. So, like, that was kind of a cool experience. And then the tomb area, unfortunately, wasn't accessible.
That's true.
It had multiple steps.
Yep.
But the tomb itself was gorgeous.
I had to see it through pictures.
The
outside was nice.
There was like a cool, I don't know if it was leading towards a mosque or what
the
like area where you were staying at was.
Those are the 2 horseback guards.
There were 2 horseback guards, yeah.
That's it, right? They had spears. It was really cool.
They were posted outside of the gate.
Yeah. But, yeah, other than that, not much to see. And from there, we went back to Casablanca, back to our OG hotel again, which we enjoyed, so that was fine. We did make use of our last day to kind of walk around Casablanca. Since we didn't have any excursions planned that day, we found a nice park.
Yeah, which was really close to us.
Yeah.
And like a really nice park.
It was. We sat and just enjoyed people watching, which is one of my favorite pastimes. And then the next day we flew home, and our honeymoon was
over.
sadly over. Overall, we really enjoyed our trip, but I think there are a lot of takeaways from it on a accessibility standpoint, and then just
In general.
on a general standpoint. I think the biggest of which is it accessible? Yes, in quotes. I think we very quickly adopted the term Morocco accessible, which means that you can probably do everything you want to do, but you're not going to be doing it the way you envisioned. A ramp was a necessity. Steps everywhere.
No curb cuts,
No
really.
curb cuts.
I think I saw one city on our entire trip that like
Yep.
had consistent curb cuts.
Yep. Also, there are elevators, but they are the world's smallest elevators. There was no elevator that we went in that was, more than one person worth.
Another general takeaway was I think most of the rooms, which if you have a wheelchair, you kind of know internal furniture isn't something that's easy to navigate around. And I think being an accessible travel tour company, that most of the rooms had internal furniture. So we were either having to rearrange the entire inside of a hotel room, to be able to Connor to be able to navigate easily, or pushing things to the side or moving a bed, And I think that was just something like as an accessible tour company.
I mean, to be fair, the rooms.
We're always really big and spacious.
Well, yeah, but what I was going to say was they are not. These are just regular hotels that this accessible tour company has through their
Word of mouth, I
word of
think.
mouth.
Like just trial and error.
Right, realize that these hotels were accessible-ish. So it wasn't that these rooms were being designed, well, I guess...
Well, there was one that was designed.
The one was designed. But in general, they're just regular hotel rooms that had accessible features. So they're not meant for just disabled people. They're meant for everyone.
The other thing overall is we opted for the half-board package, I guess you could call it. And I think that really worked for us.
It did. That half-board package included breakfast every morning and dinner every night. And that was more than enough food for us, which I think really made our driver
really
confused.
Yeah, because I think there was only on our whole trip like 2 days we stopped for lunch.
Yeah.
And I think we only stopped because the driver was basically like, can we stop? And we were like, sure, I guess we'll just like pick up a sandwich here. Like,
Yep.
And side note, when you go to a roadside restaurant, like the pictures that you see on there are probably not what you're getting.
That's true.
And also, you are probably not going to get whatever you actually think you're ordering.
What do we? It was a taco.
It was a burrito.
It was a burrito.
No, it was a taco.
It was a taco.
And it ended up being a burrito.
Yep.
And we got like French fries and like a weird sauce with it.
And they were not French fries. Hi, Sylvia. Bye, Sylvia. Sorry.
So just another side note. Also, we did learn overall that our driver carried his own espresso cup
He
and
did. But I
stopped.
think that's a common thing.
Yeah, carrying your own cup. Yeah.
Also, there are, I think this is where you're going with
Yeah.
this. There are, like,
Cars.
cars
And we mean like cars you drive on the road
just on the side of the road with an espresso machine
in the trunk.
in the trunk selling espresso.
Just random places on the road.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a cool experience.
I love coffee, but these people bring drinking coffee to the next level. Another takeaway from us was that with this Morocco accessible tours, they offer 3 options. The base option is obviously going to be your cheapest, and that's staying in just regular hotels. The middle option is a riad option, so where available, they'll put you in an authentic riad in the Medina. And then there's a executive option.
Yeah.
It's like staying in luxury resorts. We chose the riad option mostly because we wanted the authentic experience, and
I don't think it disappointed.
it didn't. I think that was the right choice. I will say, staying in the riads and staying in the Medina definitely posed way more accessibility challenges.
Correct.
The riads,
Again, aren't made for accessibility.
correct. So they usually had stairways into them, typically 1 or 2 steps, something that was a big deal, but that means you're always dealing with a ramp to get in and out. So
Sometimes even a ramp into your room.
yep. So they have to weigh that against maybe staying in a hotel, which I would assume the hotels were more
Yeah, I mean they have like
accessible.
Hiltons and
Right.
the other major like Holiday Inns.
Chains.
Yeah, the major like American chains you would think of they also have out there.
I think the downside to that would be, everything that you want to do is really in the Medina. So if you're staying in a hotel, you're not staying in the Medina, meaning you need to transfer via your van from your hotel to the Medina. That could be a pain. So you really just have to weigh
What's best for
what's
you
best for you.
and what experience you want.
Right, yeah. Another thing that I enjoyed,
I did not.
haggling is a must. Whatever the price they tell you, that is not the price that you should pay. We received a travel guide before leaving, and they said that typically you want to aim for about 60% of whatever the price they first quote you at for your starting offer, and then end up somewhere in between. And I think I did pretty good.
I agree. You did pretty good.
Yeah.
Again, just with the whole experience, I have to say that the roads were not meant for the weak of heart.
Not even a little bit.
I think to all credit, like they have paved roads, like nothing is dirt for the most part on their freeways.
Yeah.
The issue is the pavement isn't flat. So there are constant bumps and jerks and dips and, that kind of thing, which I think if
you have head control or upper trunk control, it's not a problem. For me, I did not feel safe in traveling long distances. I had to have Marissa sit next to me for a good portion of time. She was literally just holding my head. Do you want to show them?
like that.
to make sure that I didn't flop out of my chair. And I mean, we're driving 3-4 hours
Some
sometimes.
days, yeah.
So it got pretty exhausting. I think even at some points, I got out of my chair
And just laid down because it was easier than
on the bench of the van, which our
tour guide probably wasn't.
What
I mean,
did
our
you-
driver probably wasn't thrilled about.
yep,
But
he was not, especially when we got pulled over.
the other thing was the van was, we're used to, I guess, the vantage point in our van being a little different. You sit up a little higher in the van that we had.
Well, not to mention I sit in the front.
Yeah, you typically sit in the passenger seat. So we were sitting in the back of the van. The window structure is different. So realistically, I think at the height Connor sits in his chair, it was really hard to see out of the van windows. So you could kind of glimpse a couple of things depending on the angle, but realistically, like constantly looking out while we were driving just wasn't easy.
Yeah, I mean, the top of my eye line, looking straight, was above the top of the window. So that window I'm actually looking down out the window, which I could see things, but not
Not like what
totally.
I could see looking directly,
Right.
out of the window. Overall, again, I think one of the things that we would probably, if we choose to go again, we would change would be the fact that we made so many stops at different locations that like you were kind of living out of your suitcase. And
Which
like,
isn't a big deal, except that we had lots of suitcases.
yeah, I mean, you have medical equipment, you have extra things that you have to take with you, just, along with your clothes and other things. So, we're lugging in 2 to 3 suitcases in every hotel. And it's like, if you're in the Medina, you're carrying it through the entire walled city, and it's just, that was
Well,
kind of something I don't think we anticipated.
Yep. I also think that on top of that, an added complication was, given the size of the van, to put the bags in, they typically would sit behind me, which meant
That's right.
that for me to get out of the van, all the bags had to be unloaded. So any roadside attraction, or when you're on a road trip, like, you stop and get out and see things. Well, we were really weighing,
Like, is it worth the energy of
Right.
unloading all the luggage to be able to see this attraction?
which was one of the big reasons that I didn't get out at Cedar Forest with the monkeys. I mean, yes, it wasn't fully accessible.
But you could have come to the edge, you're
right.
right. But it would mean we'd have to find an area that was flat, unload our luggage so everyone around us knows,
Yep.
and it just was.
So I think that was definitely the detractor. If we go back, I think we'll maybe target 1 or 2 cities versus the 6 or 7.
But I also think on a grand scale, like that's something you weigh traveling, right? Like
Sure.
you want to see as many locations as you can. And unfortunately, the negative side of that is you are also traveling to as many cities as you can.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think, like you said, again, I think we would do less cities. But I think in hindsight, I think we enjoyed multiple cities.
Yeah. One other one that we anticipated but didn't do our homework enough is charging your wheelchair.
I think we did a lot of homework. The
Just
issue
no-
is,
Just no.
I don't think Permobil makes it easy.
No.
And I think that's where our problem was.
So we did our homework on getting converter versus transformer, right?
Yeah.
Am I saying that right?
Yeah, I think so.
So converters just convert the plug type,
Correct.
but transformers transform
The wattage and voltage.
because US is
Lower.
right than Morocco,
I mean, most of the world.
right? Most of it was what, 220,
Yeah. And we're
Yep.
110.
and we're 110. So we did that homework. We
Oh,
got,
no, they're 210 and we're 120.
okay, whatever. So we did that homework. We got the light converters, the light transformers. We checked, and this is where we messed up. We checked my wheelchair charger to make
His
sure
everyday wheelchair charger.
my everyday wheelchair charger to see if it was compatible. It said it was, but we were
Hesitant.
My old wheelchair charger says that it is compatible and it has a removable plug that you can actually replace with a European style plug. We also asked the Permobil rep if that would work, which he confirmed. So we go. I wouldn't say it didn't work.
I agree. It did charge the chair.
We bought the old charger with the European plug. It did charge the chair. However, unbeknownst to us, and apparently unbeknownst to the Permobil rep,
Correct.
we learned after doing frantic Googling in Marrakesh.
Yeah, I think we're
Because
in
Marrakesh
Marrakesh.
is where we really
Realized
realized
this might be a problem.
the new Permobil chairs as of 2022,
I think so, yeah.
2023, something like that, use a different charging frequency. And the old charger charged them, but charged them much, much slower. So I was not getting a full charge on an 8-hour
Correct.
night.
So there would be some nights where we would have to like come home, we would take a break at the hotel, we'd plug his chair in, and then we'd go do whatever we were going to do for the rest of the day.
We would take our charger with us, hoping that whatever restaurant we were in
Had a
would
plug
have a
next
plug.
to it, yeah.
It
That's
really
right.
much became an Indiana Jones of where can I find an outlet. So that added stress that we didn't need. So thanks, Permobil. Appreciate that one.
So thanks for joining us on the tour of our honeymoon.
Yeah, hopefully you found it informative, and hopefully this opens your mind to seeing Morocco and seeing the world in general. If you enjoyed this, hit subscribe, hit like. If you didn't enjoy it, hit like anyway. It doesn't hurt. It's like a smile, it's free.
Wow. Look at you.
So thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
Goodbye.
Okay, bye.